Appreciate you checking in with us. And we are getting started. So today we have ZENcast Live applying ZCM zone cumulative updates. Let's go on over to the next screen. I hope audio is just as well over here and that you can see my screen. We're going to get started with some details about applying cumulative updates on a ZCM zone. We are ZENcast Live, a community of administrators and specialists in ZenWorks products. And so we put this on for you, and we hope that we have the right content for you and that you're able to reap something out of these. We meet every first and third Tuesday at 9 o'clock Mountain Time. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate that. You can see what the recordings out on the Microfocus Support and Training YouTube channel. If you go out to Microfocus Support and Training on YouTube, you will see, let's go back to playlists, and we will go to, scroll down to IM&G, Unified Endpoint Management. All of our ZenCasts are here, but if they involve ZenWorks or Service Desk, you'll find them there, but you'll find us out here. So if you miss the recording, feel free to go on out there, or if you miss the live content, go out there, and we will be, you'll be able to see it and download the latest content from the description. So we'll have in the description the links to the download PDF and so forth. A little bit of house cleaning, subscribe and notifications. You can log into chat so you can communicate with us and with each other as you go through. Be sure to comment or like on the recording afterwards if you happen to be in there, and you can also get the links from there. Or I posted the today's download in today's chat, so you can just download, follow along, or review it later. You can direct message each other, and then viewing is at 720p60 is the best. Posted video description, as I mentioned, links are to the downloads and the references in the presentation. And so we're doing applying cumulative updates to a ZCM zone today. We're going to have a couple others coming up. July 5th, we're going to have a developer on that's going to help us talk about migrating a ZCM primary server to an appliance. And there's others coming down. So you can go out to ZENcast Live oncoming schedule to actually see what's up and coming so that you're able to keep up with us. And also, if you're looking for the past ZENcast, you can go ahead and search out here as well. So everyone is listed here. Let's see. Remember that we have the ZenWorks community ideas and exchange. Okay, this happens to be for Service Desk, the ideas exchange. We look at these often, see what's rated. Be sure to vote when you get a chance if you feel that that's prevalent to your organization, because that means it's needed for for you in your environment. And we'd like to make sure we look at that as a post or an upcoming feature. All right, we have there's other things like Google's major disruptive changes. You'll find out on the community what's going on there. So we try and give some preactive information out there. Also, MX Exchange Online, the use of basic authentication is going away October. So we try to keep ahead of that out on the community. There's also a bunch of TIDs, and this is also in that presentation that you download for different things across the ZenWorks portfolio. And we have, so you can actually link directly to them right here. So that will be helpful if you need to get to any of these particular TIDs. And I try to look up the latest ones that we have. We did have an analyst report for suppingercore, and you can get to it out here, and you can see what's going on with that. We do have other live casts like Filer, Groupwise Enterprise Messaging, and OES iPrint. Robin Redgrave does those over in the UK, and he does those dates are here, typically on Thursdays. So you can catch him doing a similar thing on his stream as well about those products. All right. Events, Technology Transfer Partners, if you haven't seen them, TTP is an organization that does a lot of collaboration, community, and events, and it's not just ZenWorks, it's Microfocus products, and it actually goes more towards the customers and what they're doing within the scope of their environment, and that's where the Technical Insights Conference comes in. We have all sorts of different presentations not just from Micro Focus, but from the community as well. So how customers are using products, and not necessarily just our products, but how they're working in their environment to tackle certain tasks. And you can see those out there on the technical insights. And of course, you can go out to Technology Transfer Partners out here and be able to see what's going on, as well as the Technical Insights Conference. If you wanted to register for that, you can do that. It started last June, going through July. Some things are just how-to, some are roadmaps, some are introductions. I think June is a lot of introductions, and July is the details about certain products. Okay? So those are out there. And then just covering the UEM, Unified Endpoint Management and Protection versions. We're currently on version 2020 update 2 for ZCM. You do need a foundation of 998, which pretty much takes care of that log4j, as well as the foundation for doing cumulative updates, which we'll see in today's presentation. There's an upgrade cookbook out there. There's a what's new TID out there. There's a few different things that you can look at. ZRS 7.8 is a version we're on. ZSD 8.3 is out there and released a couple months ago. And then MFDC 22.4 was released this week and has some exciting new features as far as that particular product. For futures, here's just a small list of what's coming in ZCM, right? Customer request, new platform support, on-demand bundle distribution, and those types of things. ZSD has some things as well, being able to connect to Azure AD and MS Exchange and modern authentication for Google and O365. Other things are listed there. Of course, this is not a comprehensive list. There's more coming. So, and a lot of those ideas are coming from you, so we appreciate that. And then MFDC 22.6 will be coming soon with the full T-Drive file search in the portal and other things that are in the product for that particular application streaming platform. Okay? Recap last week. Desktop containers, app streaming. The advantages, we covered some advantages there. We talked about URL handlers and how you can have basically a plain Jane OS, register, you can log into a portal, not even register, log into a portal, and you can get your particular applications to your desktop running in the cloud, so you don't have to transfer files or anything like that, especially if you're using T-Drives, which is OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, or Filer. Okay, and then we talked a little bit about Studio packaging and how it's an alternative to VDI. So if you just need to launch something from another location, it really is a nice alternative and low-cost alternative. But there's some things in there that we did, so you can check that out from last week. This week we're going to talk about ZCM applying cumulative updates to the zone, okay? And we got a demonstration here where we're going to basically need to download 998. I had not upgraded my U2 2020 U2 zone, and we went ahead and we downloaded 998. We also applied the 1006, and there were some prerequisites, of course, but one thing about these documents is they're very, very detailed and thorough. And so when you're looking at these particular documents, make sure that you go slow, take it step by step, because you can skip a lot because there's conditions in there, right? So let me log in so we don't get this. This is something that's brand new, is they just kind of compressed everything when you're viewing some documents. So this one is the 998 and being able to do that and upgrading your platform so you have the latest one log4j fix and those types of things, but also you can see it has a log4j. Let me increase this size a little bit for you. All right, but apply the FTF, steps to apply the FTF. So for customers who have not applied 997, all right, there's section A and section B. So, and then who have applied 997, because there were some things that we're coming out with in Log4j. They'd made some changes, and the next thing you know, something else broke. So we needed to make sure that we have a couple of steps here for you. And we go through those steps in our presentation, but they are very detailed, and it works quite nicely. So we're going to cover a Windows primary server today. The other patch, and you have the different things, installation instructions, related patches, right? What other things are patched in this so that you actually have an ongoing, if there's any defects, fixes, and you don't have to request an FTF. It automatically comes in these particular cumulative updates, okay? And then the latest, you want to do the latest download from SLD. 1006 just came out, and so double check. The nice thing about these is you don't have to do them in order. All right, some of the questions we have is, must I install all FTF versions independently? No. You can easily go, once you have 998, you can go directly to 1006, which is what we did. And then downtime required? Of course, because you're going through some of that, you're going to have a reboot or stop on that primary server. But remember that if you have multiple primaries, you can keep those up and running. Okay? And then how can I check the version that's installed? Obviously, there's some commands that we have there, and we'll cover that in our demonstration as well. So we have some TIDs. Listed references are very specific. Like I said, docs are step-by-step. Version in the GUI will not change, and we'll show you that on your login screen, there's a version. On the primary server, when you look at those, there's a version, and that's the install version, not the defect. So if you remember, when you get a defect, those version numbers don't change. They just change for the files. But there are ways and commands to be able to find those versions and where you're currently at. And it says that in the appendix. You can go directly from 998 to 1006. You can also go to 999, 1006. So there's a couple of them in there, but the very least should be 998 or 999 when you start this. And then you run with administration rights, okay, or root access. Did I cover can go? Yeah, if you have 999, there was some corrections, or any of the 1004, be sure to put 1006 on. It'll fix some of those small things that need to be added for that was found along the way in defects. So you always want to keep current if you can. Yeah, once it's applied, 998 or 999, you have a simplified process, a few steps, and you're done. And you actually have fixes for defects built in. So it really makes it nice so you don't have to discover them, call support, and we have to refund a particular SR for you or whatever, and then because it's a defect and get you an FTF, they're automatically put in when we discover them on the back end. And there's a couple of commands: run FTF queries configure action. Remember, when you run that, the database must be running. And these are some of the things I fell into yesterday. And then Windows Edition. And so some of the FTF fixes is Windows Editions, the 10.2H, I believe. And then rebuilding anti-malware config if you're doing any updates to that. So those are some of the things that you want to remember. And we're gonna walk through them. And I did a video so that we could, because I had the demo gods got me last week. And so I thought, well, if I just did a presentation video that's no audio, it might work a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and play this and talk it through. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, obviously, is go out to your SLD and download. You can set your category to current, and then you can find your FTF. And currently, you'll see the FTF 1006 is there. It's the current one. If FTF 1007 was there, you'd obviously be able to download it, and it would be 1006 would be superseded. But then you also have the 998, okay, and that's what we downloaded this time. We downloaded 998, use that as our base foundation, and we're going to go ahead then and move forward. Now that we've downloaded, you can see the version out here is 20 update 2.990. We're going to log in and just show you a little bit about our environment. And you can see here, and these are the numbers that don't change because this is what's installed after you apply 998 and 1006. But that's typical when you have defects. You don't have that number changed. And we're currently on a Postgres. Okay, so we're an internal database. Have to make sure that's running, right? We're going to go ahead and stop services so that on this primary server so that we can go ahead and adjust or install 998. So again, we're going to do the commands, and it's going to go through and stop all our services, our Micro Focus ZenWorks services. So as it goes through this, we're going to, next we're going to extract 998, if I remember correctly. And this is going directly off the documentation, okay? And one thing I want you to do is not use this presentation as a template for doing yours, because your environment may be different. It may be a Linux box or an appliance, but just know that it actually is this simple. I did it within an hour, 10 minutes maybe for the 998 and 1006, and from here on out it should be about 15 minutes. Okay, just make sure you do your backups and stuff. We're going to go ahead and extract, and we're going to move some files. Okay, so part of the documentation mentions about moving some files or updating the Zocker, which is an exe, and it's down at the bottom here, all the way down. Let's go down here. There's Zocker. Okay, we're going to copy this, make sure we get a backup of the original, which is the 990 in this case, right? So we're going to create a 998 backup of things that we did before we did 998, and we're going to paste Zocker in there. Then we're going to move Zocker over. All right, so let's go ahead and move Zocker. This is in the 998 extract. All right, and overlay that and replace the files. There we go. All right, next step is we go, and if we look at the documentation, it's talking about some other files here, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Oh no. We're going to change directory so that we can run a command. So we just basically have to go to this particular directory where we extracted the 998, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to run Zocker, patch, apply, and then the file name. And this, again, this is all in, and notice it's a zipped file, gzip file, and it's going to extract it on its own, and it's going to run it. All right, so we're applying that patch 998. There's a few things you have to do. In this particular case, we're going to do 998. Obviously we copied the Zocker over, the one that supported the latest, and then we're going to run some patches here. So then we have we're doing another one, join proxy. So Don, you mentioned we are updating from 1 to 2. Can we run 998, 1006 on each server individually before moving to the next, or do we apply 998 to all primary servers, then apply 1006 to all primary servers? Similar to any other upgrade. Good question, Don. Similar to any other update, you want to make sure that, do 998, make sure you get, because you want to make sure your content and everything else, because there's a lot going on with these updates. It's best to cycle through them. It doesn't mean that if you have 3 primary servers that you can't have downtime for a primary server, but keep your ZCM zone up, right? Rotating between them. But I would do the 998 on all of them. And then when you're ready to apply 1006, you can apply 1006 to any or all of the updates, because those are just the defects in cumulative updates. Okay, so great question. Yeah, I'd at least get it to 998 because that's your log4j, right? And then I'd go ahead and basically you're patching each of the servers. So do them within, a reasonable amount of time. Now we're copying over an FTF version. I hope that answers your question. And this goes into the Zocker. It just tells us what FTF version is there. Okay. You bet. Thanks, Don. Okay, so We're there. We're running change directory again. And let's see, we are going to run another command. You see that the backup files, this is where we're going to see where the backup files are, if I remember correctly. Host patch apply FTF. So notice it says the files copied to this host are backed up to C program files, blah, blah, blah. You'll need this path if you want to revert this FTF. So if you went from 1004 to 1006 and you wanted to revert it, you would then be able to do so with your backup. Okay. So here's my trying to highlight this so that we can see what that path is. Okay, and it's in the FTF backups. All right. So let's go next. We're going to, where are we? A little bit of a pause in here. So be sure to just keep track of your FTFs. Make sure that they also should all be at the same level. So if you're going 1006 and 1007 comes out, make sure that they're, for operating, they come out about once a month. So you typically wouldn't have that, right? But if you're at 1006, you'll want to make sure that you, like I said, keep them all up to the same date. So all the defects are done on all the primary servers. And then when 1007 comes out, you'll obviously do 1007. If you want to skip a month, that's fine. You can go 1008 when it comes out, and you'll get the 1007 and 1008 cumulative updates. Okay. So I made a mistake here. I didn't have the right, and I don't think I should have made this bigger for you. I didn't think about it at the time, but I'm arranging this so I can see what directory it's in. So we're going to run this PS1, this PowerShell script. Okay. So I'm going to grab the directory that this script is in, and I'm going to copy that here. And that way we can go and run this PowerShell script. And we're going to run PowerShell execution policy. And of course, you won't run this on a Linux box. This is for the Windows box. You could see the backup and copy SH file just below it on the screen behind where we extracted the 998. And that's what you would run on your Linux machine. Okay, so we're going to run this. It's going to run through some things. And I think it's completed down at the bottom. So you can see completed action backup, copying files. So you can see there that it also has a log file in place so that you can reference that as well. Okay, we also can check some files to see if they're updated. Notice my install was August 16th last year. And if we look into these files, you can see Zav listener is yesterday's date when I did the update. And so is this one. Okay. So you can see there that a little bit of confirmation in the documentation. It references, you can also verify the update by looking at some files. And that's what it's doing here, is we're looking at the files to make sure that things were updated properly. And so you can see another date here, LM detection, right? And on the x86, you can see LM detection as well. Okay, so, and this is, again, this is step-by-step in the documentation. You just go through that documentation, you'll be good. The one thing that I missed was going between the document and doing it was restarting or stopping services. So just remember about that. Take it slow and kind of have it as a checkoff list. Okay. And so we're looking here, the anti-malware legacy cleanup will clean up if you've upgraded. If you installed 2020 update 2 right out of the box, you won't need to run this. But if you've installed 2017 and migrated up to 2020, or you installed 2020 and then upgraded to update 1 and or update 2, you want to run this legacy cleanup, and it'll just clean up some extra temp files and things, get them out of the way so you don't have them in your system. We're going out there now, and we're going to run the command. And it, again, documentation, very detailed, and it just goes out there and removes registries and different things on this particular box so that it cleans those things up. You can see 2020 update 0 there as one of the files, MSI files and stuff. So nice little cleanup package. And this only needs to be done once. You can see the 17.2 package that it found. So it goes through some cleanup there. It doesn't take too long. Like I said, I did mine in about, then did some files, and then you can see the log file as represented here. Then it's gonna, then we need to remember we've now done a defect update, and we need to run system update for the agents, right? So let's update the agents, and you'll see a couple mistakes here that I commonly do. I got the numbers right, but it'll display them. But just as a reminder that, yep, if you're running into cannot find or something, be sure to double check the documentation with it as well. And see, I put a quote at the end there, and I shouldn't have done that. It's not going to find it. And then could not connect to the server. And in this case, not only did I do the misspelling on the command line, but I didn't start the services. So we need to make sure that we start services. All right. Because we've done the patch now, everything's done. Now we have to do the agent update, which normally you have to have the system running for it to do that. So it's going to go through. I cut the time limit on this a little bit, so you can see that it's doing it, but it takes a little bit longer than this, obviously, to sometimes start up the services. I guess I could have fast forwarded through this. Not like you haven't seen this enough, huh? You know what this is all about. But it's going to go ahead and start up, and then we will do the SUPF on the ZenWorks agents themselves. While this is doing this, I think what I'm going to do is go here. There we go. And if that's not too bad for you, we can see what we have going on over here. So the start configuration was complete. Now we're going to do the update, and you can see here I have a typo. Double checked. I saw the beginning quote, and then I didn't notice it after the update to the ending quote. I thought it was at the end, so I threw that in at the end, which was incorrect. It's going to fail here. So once we have this completed, the agents will be updated to 998. Now remember, when we do 1006, if there's any agent updates, we'll need to do this again. All right. So we're waiting here. I probably should have cut this a little bit, but just takes a minute. I cut most of it out. In the meantime, we're going to go and we can look at and see if we got a good console, right? Because we restarted services, we need to check our console. The other thing you could do is you can check to see if update 1 was installed, because we've applied now, we're applying to update 2, the updates, but what about the 998 fixes for update 1? You'd have to do the same command in this. Again, this is in the documentation, but you'd have the same command, but for update 1, so you can update the update 1 agents if you're still deploying them. And looking here, we have a 2020 update 2 and we have 2020 update 0. So update 1 was not installed on this box. So I just wanted to give you an example where to look. That's under the content repo. And you're probably familiar with this. And of course, you got to get the exact name, and I didn't put a space here, so I'm going to go ahead and put a space. And then I think I got it right, and I try and hit enter again because I'm quick on my feet. And you know, I had a colleague one time tell me, Paul, just stand away from the keyboard, give it a minute, and digest it. So we did get an error on that. It hasn't started yet. We're going to go over to administrator. Right now, I jump ahead and I go, well, system updates, why wouldn't it be running? Let me check some things, right? Well, I just really had the wrong command. So we go to system updates. You can see here that we're at update 2. I was just kind of verifying the actual name, which is ZenWorks 2020 update 2. Well, ZenWorks space 2020 space update space 2. And it's correct, but then I go back to my command line and we check again, and we notice there's a few more errors. So 3 or 4 is a charm for me. I got a capital U. Remember, you have to have the actual version, and it doesn't exist because I have an end quote. I'm scratching my head here. This is why I lost a lot of hair, you know. And then I finally read the documentation verbatim, and I go ahead and go, oh, that's what's going on. So, takes me a minute, but we get to it. But I didn't really want to edit too much of this out because I think we've all fallen into this trap, right? We're just getting too anxious and too, we just want to get it done. And we're under the gun because we have downtime and, you know, expectations are there. So we have update 2. Then I realize I think this is where the quote comes in. There we go. Now let's try it. Okay. That was painful. Uh-oh. Does not exist. What did I do wrong now here? Let me see what I did wrong. I guess 4 is a charm. You know what it was? Oh, it was a directory. I was in the wrong directory. I wasn't in the extracted directory. I was in program. I was in ZenWorks Home. So I'm realizing now, going, well, it's there. It matches. Oh, let's go back to downloads. So there we go. All right. Let's try this again. So just so you know, it happens to the best of us. And again, you want to be in as administrator. You can see at the top of the frame, we're in as administrator. And so we're going over to downloads now. We're going to go ahead and log in or change to that directory, 998. And we're going to go ahead and run that command now. Dun-dun-dun. So I think that's probably the cumulative way I go around sometimes when I'm doing the updates when I rush myself. You know, there's the directory, there's a name, there's quotes, there's things like that. You can see here, 2020 update 2. It's been initiated, and it's going to update those particular agents now. Okay? So we're going to check basically, I believe this was done now that we've updated the primary server. We've updated, then you'd want to do all the primary servers. Then we've updated the agent. And now you can see in here that 998 is in effect. Because I had 990 on there, so it put in 996, 997, and 998 all together on the different core components. And now we are ready to go to the next step, I believe. Let's see what I'm doing here. Oh, we're gonna, services are started. Oh, I think we're going to the next one. So we're gonna stop services now, and we're gonna put in 1006. Okay, so these services are gonna stop. And as this is going, again, we're gonna extract 1006 and make sure that we have that available to us for the install. Again, I think we copy the Zocker file that has the latest information in it. I don't know if you have to copy Zocker every time, but again, I've only done this. This was my first time, but so just follow those directions and it'll tell you, because there may be changes obviously they've done with Zocker, and as we start doing more containers, that's probably going to evolve. So you want to make sure you have the latest Zocker in there. So the directions will tell you so. Okay, we're extracting here, just making sure we have the extraction. See how I'm getting ahead of myself? I'm already going to the bin directory before it's extracted. So I get myself in trouble quite a bit. But so Zocker image ls, we have, you can see here 998, 996, 998, 990, 997 for the different components. And then we're going to go ahead and start the 1006 now that it's extracted. So let's go over to 1006. And we're going to go and copy Zocker. We want to obviously do a backup of the current existing Zocker. And I kind of made a mistake here by, I did a copy, and then I didn't really, I put it in the 1006, which really probably isn't the best thing to do. And I move it later. You'll see when I move it later. But this is the Zocker backup for 1006. In case the system or the script goes in there, it probably wouldn't affect anything, but it's good to keep it nice and fresh. So we're going to copy the Zocker over. We're going to say replace. We got our backup, so we're good to go on over to our documentation again and check what's next. And what's next is a couple of commands, if I remember correctly, for 1006. Let's see what we do here. So we're one thing I went to is the actual extracted ZCM 2020 1006 folder, and what it really wants is the tar.gz, the zip. So make sure you know, again, the directions are there, but it's doing the patch here. And you could see there's some 1000, 1002, 1004, 1005. So it's patching, it's doing cumulative updates as it goes along. So this is one thing that I remember being as a customer was great. It would be great to have a cumulative update and not have to worry about doing individuals. And of course, if it's monthly, you're not waiting to the next release or placing a call to get an FTF to get those defects fixed. So you really have a more rich and stable environment fixing some of those issues that might be in the way. So now we're going to run a query FTF config action, which you can see on the left over here. We have that particular command. And if if I get my spelling right, configure action. And then it goes through some details here. Now, it sits here, right? It's trying to contact the database, and I didn't realize it, but I had stopped services to do the patch, which with an internal database, I stopped the internal database as well. And so I catch myself here going, well, what's going on? Again, scratching my head, and I realize the database is not started. So I went ahead and terminated the job, and then I went ahead and started the database. And I looked back on the documentation, and so I saw that we need to start the database, so I just went to services in Windows and started that. Again, the nice thing about the documentation is there's commands in the appendix for all of these, and it references it in the step-by-step. It says, see the command to start services in the appendix A, or those types of things. So here we went ahead and started it. We can see it's up. Let's try again, and we run our configure action. And it starts taking off. It takes a minute. It's compiling, doing its thing, and off it goes. It's done. Okay? So that updates the database with some versions. All right? And then we're going to start services. And we'll hit enter again, and off it goes. So you can see that was a little bit shorter than the first 998 that we put down, but again, you're once you have the foundation, it's fairly simple to update. And if you get your commands down right the first time, I'm sure you can narrow that time frame down considerably for each primary server. So we're waiting. What are we doing here? We're referencing that we have the backup. Oh, I'm moving the backup now because it's like, why did I move it there? So I moved the backup out of the extracted files. And I want to say there's one more command, but I'm not sure. Let's see what we got. There's a change log in there. You can see the change log. So if your change control requires that, you can pull from that. I'm still waiting for the services to start. So we don't have to do the legacy cleanup. That's only done once when you do the 998. Again, that's another step in 998, not necessarily every time. But we're going to check some files to see if they're updated. Again, we can go into the ZAV and the ZPM folders. And you'll see, I was having problems getting that to open. Should open up here real quick. There we go. And if you go into like Bitdefender, Agent, see, it really started slowing down right here. But we'll get it open and we'll show you. Again, we're just verifying that all the pieces have been updated in for the agents and for the system itself. Yeah, see, it's not responding. Try again. All right, here we go. It's there. So you can see that the x86 has a 620. So the EP security has been updated on the x86. Oh, I think this is the copy files. There's some copy file actions you need to do for 1006. Again, looking at the documentation. Trying to think what I'm doing here. But I know the EP security is updated, so I'm backing up the old EP security. And then on both of them, I think I go to both Bitdefenders. 32 and 64. Again, verifying my notes again. Downloads. I have to go to the extract, I think. Let's go on over to our ZPM. Which one? There's Zocker. Oh, I was looking to see if there's another FTF. Remember the file FTF, ZCM underscore FTF underscore version? See if we needed to do another one of those. And I didn't see it in the documentation. I was, again, predicting. So now I have some FTF backups. Again, that's under Zocker FTF backups was that directory. So I created a 1006 so that I can put my EP security in there, the older versions. And it tells you this in the documentation to make, an exact location of where you picked it up from. So I'm just creating that directory structure under FTF backups 1006 so that we know exactly which file came from where. All right. Okay, again, this is just backups. I did spell that wrong, but it is just backups. And I think I do a paste here. Yep. Okay. Then I created a 64. So if you had, if you had already done this with 1005, whatever the directions say, make sure that you just be sure to back it up. So we're going to back up the EP Security x64 on top, copy, and then there's another command we do to update those. Okay? So, the services are started. And we're going to do a Zocker, what is it, image ls. I always try version, and that's incorrect. And it does tell you, so if you do image, you'll get that. Notice you have the 1006 and the 1005 in there now, right? When the documentation refers to tag, that's basically the tag that you're looking at to make sure that the tag shows the right version. That's kind of a verification that it completed properly. All right, because that tag component was new to me as far as what they're referring to. So we verify files. We're going to now go into agents and Windows. In this case, x86. And we're going to see that we now have LM detection and LM detection utilities. Okay, before we had just one in here. Now, for this update, two of them have been updated. And same here, LM detection utilities and LM detection were both updated. Okay. So there's that. Again, we didn't preface this with you. You're going to go through the normal backup routine, making sure that you have backups of your systems when going through this, right? Before you start. And you can see that one was, again, 123, which is when I started this. And we were just here, we were copying out the other one, but there's the other 1 p.m., 1:23 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay, so you have your EP security is updated. It looks like your verification is updated. You can check your FTF list by doing Zocker FTF list, and you can see here that the version, the applied time, and the containers. Okay, and you can see there the 106, 104, and 105 for the different components. So that's another command, which is listed on the left in my presentation. And how much more time? Yeah, it's just about over. Okay, so now that it's basically complete. We're going to log in. Notice that this does not change, all right, which is typical because when you get an FTF, it doesn't change your base, right? The file names may, but it doesn't. But some of the fixes, just to verify some of the fixes that weren't there before, I went in, and this again is in the documentation. I just went to any bundle and I just opened it up, and this one happened to be the Windows OS versions fix. So it was a defect in there. And again, if you check the documentation for defects, it'll tell you that this particular defect was applied in this update. And so if we go to operating systems for a requirement, we can now see that we have the 21H1, the 20H2. I think there was I don't know if it was 20H2 or the 21H1 that needed to be applied. Documentation mentions that. But you can see here that we've now added that defect or applied that defect to this particular update. And then the other thing is to trigger an anti-malware rebuild so that your anti-malware agents are updated and your anti-malware consumes the updates. And the rebuild is agent bundle last build, rebuild now. And that's similar to the ZenWorks Adaptive Agent update, the ZAA that we did with SUPF, right? And so that's started, and you let it go through its process. And so we verified, we not only installed, we did some verification checks. We actually checked some defects that may have been, should have been fixed, which they are. And you could see that you can check with the Zocker command the needed versions, okay, which is right here. So you can actually now see what FTFs are applied, okay, and at what level, and the last time they were applied, 1 hour ago, 307 days ago, those types of things, okay. All right. That is my presentation for today. As far as the demonstration, I hope that went a little bit smoother. I kept some of those errors in there because it's typical that I do those, and I think it's good to show how I kind of got around that and where I wasn't in the right directory or something. But again, the ZCM documents are here for 998 and 1006. When you go out there, you will see the different step-by-step instructions for getting through each one of those. It's pretty well laid out. It's nicely laid out. I wish they had some highlights in here so I wouldn't skip up the updating services or starting services. Down here, there's a start services I missed. And if there are some highlights or something. But you can see checking those following files are updated and those types of things are all in here. Your tag points, which is a new term for me, make sure that they're there. Again, some more updated files, and then remember perform the cleanup, which is a Zen legacy, and this was on 998, of course. Okay, and then 1006 is a similar, but the nice thing about this is right at the top you can go directly to what you're looking for as far as in the documentation. If remember, I mentioned the defects. Sorry, that was the wrong spot. It's down here. There they are. So here's your different defects that were fixed in this particular update. Okay. And it gives you a download link taking you to your SLD portal. Okay. Again, very important, refer to the documentation for implementing this in your environment. Go step by step. This is an example. You want to make sure that you do your backups ahead of time and those types of things. But I think we covered everything from after the backups on and verifying. All right. The next ZENcast is coming up in July. We're going to actually have a developer coming in, and he's going to help us migrate from right? He's gonna actually have us migrate from an OS installed to an appliance. So it's going to be nice to have a developer going through this and making sure we get all the questions answered properly and get all the questions answered. But we're excited to have him come aboard. It's going to be Harry. He's done a great job. He's been around for a while developing ZenWorks configuration management. That's what we're going to do next time. And I really appreciate everybody being here. I hope that this helps you understand a little bit more on the process, because I really didn't cut anything out that wasn't really time related, like starting services or the stopping services, things like that. But it is really the straight process I did yesterday, and yesterday was the first time I attempted it. So I'm very, very confident in all the documentation and what's going forward. Just get that 998 in there, and then do the latest, and you're good. And then you have your monthly maintenance. You can go. You see that last part was about probably no more than 20 minutes per server, right? And that's only an estimate. I'm not positive, but I think they've really brought this into a nice solution for getting all the defects without having to order an FDF and get you up and running in proper state and stable state. So yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate all your time and being here. You guys are always great. I appreciate that you guys are here. I wish you well and can't wait to see you next time. Stay safe. Thank you very much. We got the ending music going? Yeah, good. All right. Thanks all. You guys have a great week. All right.